Dietrich already told about, I think, every aspect of variables in Toolbox 9, but I will go to in more detail, especially for the new features that are introduced with 9.1. Roughly five points I want to walk you through. That's first, user-defined value lists. Dietrich already talked about value lists that can be defined with variables. And I will just show an alternative way to define such value lists. Then I will talk a little bit about debugging variables. That's a topic for not only variables, but also for other parts in pdfToolbox that we're trying to address recently with the new version. So I will focus on debugging variables. Then, as a third point, I will tell a little bit about how to use pre-flight results to customize process plan flow, for example. So if you have a process plan and have a check, you can get information from that previous pre-flight check and base calculation upon this result. And then a very nice new feature of the file and XML XPath feature that Dietrich also mentioned. I will present some examples for that as well. Okay. So start with user-defined value lists. Oh, that's interesting. That's a bug in the presentation. So I will switch to demo. No, that doesn't work. Okay. It won't let me switch to demo. Ah, no. Okay. Okay. So. No, sorry. Okay, so that's the traditional way Dietrich already showed in his previous talk. I have here a simple variable that just defines, that just has a key. The key says, okay, it's a color mode. It has a label, it has a value, that's the default value, and it has a value list that includes two values. It's color and it's black and white. So it's obviously used for deciding whether I have a black and white or color workflow. So the user can decide at runtime, and I've constructed a process plan for that will just do a color conversion based for color workflows, or color conversion based on black and white workflows. So if I run this profile, I get a ask at runtime dialog where I can just switch between color and black and white, and that's the normal way value lists can be used. I need a variable for that is used somewhere in the profile, in the process plan. In this example, I've used it as first process plan step, and then it's evaluated. If I inspect this variable, I see that the actual value of this pop-up value is the same as the pop-up value. So if I select color, I get color as a result for this variable. If I select black and white, I get black and white. So now, if you imagine a workflow where you have localized names for this pop-up values, you would then need to adjust all your scripts to this localized names, for example. Because if you are using the value from this pop-up in another script, you will have to make sure that you ask or compare with the string color and the string black and white in the same way it is written in this context. So okay, if I look at the process plan, I have this first step here. That's a variable we just looked at. Then I go to the next step in the process plan. There's a script. You can recognize the scripts by this curly braces here in the name, in contrast to this braces that indicate normal variables that do not use JavaScript. So okay, I have, in this second step, I have a JavaScript. It just compares the value of the color mode variable that I have just defined as a value list in the first step and compares it to the word color. So it's a string comparison, and only if these both values match, I get the result true, and the return value of this value will be 1. Okay, so if this condition is true, we will continue with step 3, and that is digital printing profile for color. And if it returns false, we continue with step 4. And there's another variable that checks for the other strings. So I have, again, to compare the color mode variable with the exact string black and white. And if it returns true, I will execute the digital printing black and white profile. So in order to achieve this pretty simple process plan, we had to introduce 3 variables, and we have had to make sure that all comparisons, all scripts, just obey the correct writing of the pop-up value. So how can we improve this? And that is a new feature in 9.1. We have introduced a new parameter to the app requires function. So I have a little bit larger representation of that here. So now you can write app requires. If you remember from Dietrich's talk, with app requires you could introduce a variable in this context. So with this command, or we installed a color mode variable that has a default value 1, and the label color mode, and the 4th parameter is new in Toolbox, pdfToolbox 9.1. We can now set a value list that is displayed to the user in the Ask at Runtime dialog. So the 4th parameter is actually an array of values, and each entry in this array will add 1 entry in the pop-up menu that is shown to the user, and you can also specify an internal value, and that's now 1 and 2, and a display label for this value. So in this way, we would create a color mode variable that has 2 entries in the value list, and the values of these entries are 1 and 2, and the display strings are color and black and white. So you could as well easily just change the names of the labels without breaking the script, and that's a real advantage of this way, doing it this way. So okay, if I then in a second step I just say, okay, I make a comparison of the color mode variable with the value 1 that stands for color, and return true if that's true. So, and then I can just continue with the next step. That's a color conversion or digital printing color profile. And in the other case, I can just do the black and white part. So in the end, I only needed 2 variables to achieve the same goal, and I have the improvement that I don't have to rely on string comparisons. I just can use values for that. Okay, and if I just run this profile, I can again inspect the variables, and now you can see the difference. If you select color, the internal value is 1. That's the value that's in the text field with the script label. And if I choose black and white, I get a 0, which is fine. So, and if I run it, it's hopefully black and white afterwards. So, okay, it worked. Okay, so this looks a little bit better. The app requires, let's just wrap up what I just told you. I will just go to the next point, sorry. Okay, questions to the app requires stuff? No. Okay, then next point is script debugging. I will show you the new features in the script editor, especially the console feature. We now have support for the JavaScript console log function. I will show to you how you can use that to enumerate the internal data that pdfToolbox makes available in its script through the app objects. We'll talk a little bit about context for script evaluation, and show how we can use the log profile execution feature for, especially in the context of variables. Okay. Okay, the console window just allows you to output. I have to make it bigger. So I can just put a console log statement into the script, and it will end up everything that is logged throughout this function is output in the console window. That is especially useful if you want to look into the app object and look what kind of data is available through the script object. So I've prepared a profile for that. That's just a variable. And this is a script editor window. Das ist wirklich schlecht, oder? Was ist los hier? Okay. Must be something with the screen resolution. I'm not sure. Okay, so I will try to keep it in the zoom mode. So it's not so easy. Okay, first the console. If I just add a console log command into the script, I can use the JSON stringify function, for example, to create a string representation of the JavaScript object. And in this case, I'm just using the app object. That's the root object of pdfToolbox. And all information that you can get at runtime will be in that object. Okay, so maybe I can make zoom out a little bit here. So if you see, look at the object, you see there's a lot of information inside the application object. We have if we have a PDF document, what's usually the case if I run a profile on a document, obviously, I have some information about the document. I have the document file name, I have the document info, for example. I have the metadata as XML stream, if you like it that way. We have the number of pages. We have information about all the pages in the PDF document. So for example, we can pick up the bleed box, crop box. We have a list of inks, ink names, media box, rotate entry, and so on. Then we have the path, the full path to the PDF document. And if we have a pre-flight result available, that's always the case if we are running in the process plan and have executed a pre-flight profile in the previous step. We also have access to all the checks and conditions and page numbers and so on. So it's a lot of information inside the app object. We also have information about the XMP metadata, and we have some information about the environment. So there's the name of the user or the operating system, a string, a path delimiter that can be used in order to build a file path for the file object, and so on. And this can all be evaluated in the console window by using the console log function, which is very practical if you want to create a JavaScript for a certain purpose. You can just look how can I access the data. I have a JSON, serialized JSON expression for that can be just picked up from the console window. So that's console. Then maybe, don't know. Yes, you have seen that we have information about the document in the app object. This was possible because I had a document open and I had a result open. If I have no document open, I will not have this information. So if I just again copy the console log output in this case and paste it into the text editor, I see I have much less information available. So that's because I have no context. So if that's the case, you can easily create a context here by opening a PDF file in the context menu. So if I open the color PDF, that's from the list of recent PDF files, and if I again paste this information, I have all the information for this document available. So if you want, I want to test my script variable with different documents, I can easily switch the document in the context menu. There's also a second context menu. That's not so easy to understand, but I will try to explain this as well. Here I have Here I have a profile that has a custom check that uses variables that can be seen by these three dark black points. And if I go into the details of the editor for this check, I see, okay, I have a script variable here in the number text field, and I can edit it somewhere. Okay, it's a little bit a challenge to find the windows. Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, so in this case, I have a variable that just uses another variable, the variable image_res, that's not defined in this context, and therefore the result is undefined. But if I evaluate this variable in the context of the profile, I suddenly get a result, and it's no longer undefined. And why is this the case? Because the variable image_res is defined in the profile context somewhere. And if I evaluate this variable in the context of the profile, the variable evaluation code will make sure that all the variables are evaluated in the correct order, and the value image_res is available for this script variable, and therefore it can be evaluated. So that's context. Okay, so the topic of the second item, okay. Speaking about debugging, so that's part of the debugging feature. We already heard about the log profile execution menu item. If we activate this feature, we will get more debugging information about the profile run. Whenever I run a profile, I will get information in this window that pops up after the profile execution, and I get information in the process log. And that's interesting also for the variables as well. So, because the focus is on the variables, I can see that I can just log information about any variable in this log. So if I'm creating new profiles and I have problems with variable values because they have unexpected values, or I don't know which objects are actually available in a result, for example, I could just easily execute this profile with the profile logging on, and for example, I could just add. For example, no, that's a bad example. I could just add to the script. I could just add okay. Again. For example, I could just write app vars debug is equal to JSON. JSON stringify the app object, for example. So what will this line of code do? It will just stringify the app object and will put the stringified content of the app object into the debug variable. Okay, save this, run this, and we have, okay, we get this pop-up window. I must choose a new name, replace. And now I again get this pop-up folder containing the log contents. And I see here I have, okay, again. The process plan executed 3 steps. So the first step is the first step of the process plan, and that's an example for the naming schema Dietrich already mentioned. The second step is actually the third step in the process plan, and the third step is the fourth step in the process plan. But more interestingly, in this context, the process logs. Oh wow. It contains all the information from the app object. So it's in the debug variable. So, but I have everything here. So I could just look it up after the fact. So if I have to debug my variable evaluation, I could just look into the results for this PDF file, what was there in the app object at the time of the execution of the profile.
This debug in this case, is this a keyword or just an arbitrary variable name?
That's just a variable name. Yeah, yeah. It's just I just quoted debug so that I can remember afterwards that it can be removed for production code. Yeah. Okay, so you could use another variant of this stringify command to make it more readable in this case. So just show this to you. So, but that's just JavaScript. So if I write this stringify with the null and tabulator parameters, I will get some pretty printed result instead. So, okay, again get the process log, and now it looks like much more cleaner. Okay, so that's debugging of variables. Any questions? Good.
Is this part of the documentation?
This console log, so there is no section in the documentation that's said which is titled debugging of variables. The ingredients of the documentation, they are there, but not in just one chapter or in one article of the documentation. But I had the plan anyway to write such an article after this session. So the short answer is it's not yet, but it will be.
I think we have documentation about the process log profile execution thing, but not specifically for variables debugging. I think so. So
it's the same to the console log, so it's there.
Okay, we have enumerated context, log profile execution. So we'll come to the next point. That's working with check results. How can I identify checks in results from previous process plan steps? How can I get more details by using trigger values from results from previous process plan stacks? And how can I link trigger values to check properties? Okay. Okay, so Dietrich also mentioned check IDs. I will give you some more information about that. Check IDs are internal IDs that are assigned to an object in the profile at creation time, and that will never change in the lifetime of this object. So if I create a new check, each condition in this check will get a check ID in this case, and oh no, that's not true. The check will get the check ID, and the check ID will stay the same. It's an internal value, so you can see it here. It's just a hash value essentially above some information. So, and whenever you edit a check, it will not change its ID, even if you add a new condition to the check or so. So if you have a profile that has checks and you want to pick up this information in a variable, in a following process plan stack, you can rely on that ID. And that's especially important if you have profiles that are localized, for example. So every profile that is shipped with pdfToolbox is localized, so if you run the profile in English, it will have a different name as when you run it in German. So you can't rely on the name of the object. Okay, that's check IDs. Can also show this in an example. So I have a process plan that, okay. I have a process plan that executes a profile in the first step. That's just one, so it's not a very useful example, but it's just to show how it works. So it's one of the standard checks we ship with pdfToolbox is list page objects grouped by type of objects, and then I have some variable in the following step. I think I messed this profile up because the color mode. Okay. I think I will just create a new variable and name it get checks. I don't know, need a label actually, so it's a script. And I could use this feature here. Okay, it's not so easy with the magnification. If I look, what can I do with checks? I can filter these insert JavaScript objects list, and I find this entry. It's the app doc result checks ID. So that's the ID of the specified check. Okay, I insert it here. Okay, now I have a problem. It is not defined. Okay, what's the case here? Obviously, I need to have an index. I have to use the index, and now I have the check ID of the first check in the profile that has been run before on this file. So that I can even use this expression in this case requires that I have a current pre-flagged result available. So that's the case because I run a profile before opening this dialog. I could also just stringify this. Okay. So again, with a nice formatting. Okay. So probably a bit too large. So in this expression, I now have serialized the checks object in the app doc results, and I get information about all the checks in this pre-flight profile and the results from the previous run. So I have an array here indicated by the square brackets, and the array consists of an object for every condition in this check. I have an object for each check in this profile. And each each check in the profile consists of conditions. In this case, we have one condition. Its spot color representations are inconsistent, and it also has an ID. It had no hits in the previous pre-flight run, so no problems in this regard. I have an ID. It has a name. That's a localized name. So because I'm running the profile in English, I have an English string here. It has no hits, and therefore it has also no page numbers assigned. And I can also get the severity of the check. One means info severity. So with this information, all this information I could use in a JavaScript variable in a process plan to react on the results of a previous check. So maybe more interesting, some checks with actually had some hits. Oh, there are none, okay. So we have some. Okay. Maybe we need to use another profile, or okay, so now I should have hits here because I have hits. I've run a profile on the PDF file. I got hits, and I could go back to the oh, I didn't save. Okay, checks. Okay, I again create a script. I take the app.doc result checks property. I do the pretty printing stringify. So I'm just repeating that in order that you remember this afterwards. Problems with the keyword here. Okay. Okay, so here we have a check with 5 hits. Go up a little bit. So that's a check. That's here. It starts here. It has 3 conditions. So it checks for image resolution and bits for color components and strange configuration. Okay. Now I think this checks for image resolution is between 2 values. So therefore we have 3 conditions, and we get 5 hits. And now we have in the hits array we have the trigger values. And as you can see, for each hit I also get 3 trigger values because I have 3 conditions. And the order of the trigger values corresponds to the conditions in this check. So the value 8 stands for bits for color components, and the value 241 blah 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 relates to image resolution. And surprise, surprise, image resolution is the same for the third conditions as well. So that was expected. So.
Trigger values are values that we report, so they are different for each check that we use, but then that is, for instance, if you check for image resolution, it gives you the actual image resolution for a particular file, and that allows you to really find out so you check whether image resolution is below 300, and then this gives you the real value of each of the images that created it.
Okay, and in this way you can check in a variable. You can check for the occurrence of a hit for a specific check ID. So you could react. I know I have this check, and if this check triggers, I can do something special. And you can even react on the actual value of that property that was checked. So you could check for font size, image resolution, distance from page box border, for example. That might be an interesting option to use. So I think I can't show it here, but we can probably show it in. Oh, okay, I have to look on there.
What we discussed, for instance, you could create a job sheet for a product, and you could send it to the customer, and you could say, as you could in the past, your file has problems with image resolution, but right now you can also say, because the minimum, the smallest image resolution that was inside the file was actually 241. So you can have that information.
Okay, so I think I will go to the next topic. So it's
possible to access the rectangle within which it is coordinated.
so bounding box of objects. No, it's not inside the results object actually, but I can show you a way how it can be achieved by reading the XML report, for example. So, okay, so that's then the next topic, and I will go through it quickly. Yeah, I know. So, okay, get information about files. Okay, it's from the concept. It's very easy. So you can just create a file object, give it a path, and you can read the file, and you get the contents of the file as a string. This API currently assumes that the file contents is in UTF-8 encoding, so it's useful for most JSON or XML files if they are in UTF-8. What is most in the case in most cases, and then you can just. In the first example, you can just use, if you read the JSON file, you can just use it with the JSON parse function and parse the JSON expression, and you have a real JavaScript object that can be used in the JavaScript with JavaScript methods. We have some other file properties. We can check whether a file exists. So that's a property of the file object. I create a file, and I can call file.exists, and it will report true if the file is there. I can get the file name, the full path of the file. I can even get the last modification date, which is probably not so interesting. Okay, so, and then there's XML, of course, so we can just use the file object to read XML data as well. So if I have an XML file, I can apply XPath expression on that file context, and I just show the slide. If somebody is interested, I can show it live as well, which must make that on Wednesday, I think. So you have a path to a document. In this case, I just picked up the path from the results object. So I had a process plan that created an XML report, and this will be included in the doc results reports property. And I can get just the path of the XML file. I can open the file with a file object, read the file, create an XML object from the file contents. I have to register a namespace prefix for the namespace used in pdfToolbox reports, and then I can just apply this very simple XPath expression, and I get an array of plate names from the XML report. And that can be used, of course, for getting bounding boxes of check results, because they are stored in the XML reports.
So the result is itself also an object? The result is also an object?
Result is an object, yeah. So that's an object that has the reports, it has the checks, properties, and so on.
Which could be assigned also to the JSON.
Yes. Yeah.
If there is only one element there, is the result also an array with just one element?
Yes. That's how XPath works. So it always returns a collection of strings in this case. So if you have an XPath expression that selects the whole XML file, you will get one element with an XML contents. So it's the inner XML. So you have all the the angel brackets inside the string. So, but that's normal XPath. And it uses internally XPath 1.5, so you can't use the fancy XPath 2 features, unfortunately, but still very powerful.
But should I define this object somewhere before?
This object? No, that's
this result object, cyan, magenta, yellow, black.
the result object only exists if you have a result available.
But
So
I should have somehow access on this object, and it should be assigned to some value, which, as I understand,
it's magically there if you have a prefab result. You have the app.doc result object, then it's just there, containing all the
So
contents.
how can I access this information? Say cyan, XML path point 1 or
No.
the first item?
So in this example, you access the report. That's a file path. So from the app.doc results reports, the first report contains a string that contains the path to the XML report.
I think it's on the other side. You mean how to? I mean the result. You don't assign the result to a variable there. So you're just saying XML XPath, but you could assign that to a variable. Is that what you mean?
Yes, I mean something like that.
Yeah. So if you would say there the variable or the XPath equals XML.xpath, then you have a variable called whatever I call it, the XPath, I think. And then you could say the XPath1, and that would give you sign.
Exactly. That's what I do.
Okay. Okay, 3 minutes left for coffee.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think this was just a short overview about what is possible. So this is quite powerful. Unfortunately, we have to stop right now, so that at least you have a little bit of a copy. At least for the ones that stay until Wednesday, it of course could very well work as one of the sessions in the training. Okay.
Okay, thank you.